This video focuses on the Psychologica Aim to Agree approach and materials. This is a method to help guide negotiations or difficult conversations in order to reach collaborative outcomes. Aim to Agree is a useful aid for coaches, mediators and managers to help build interpersonal confidence, resolve conflicts or address performance issues using a consultative approach. Research shows clearly that co-created objectives, such as will be shown here, are most likely to be fulfilled. As a concept or tool for learning and development, it can also be used with teams or even in larger group workshops. In this video, we'll show you step by step how Aim to Agree can be used to help clients manage difficult interactions successfully and with confidence, whether with their bosses, staff, colleagues, partners, or friends. We'll see how this can help clients understand why previous communications may have failed and provide a framework to deal with challenging conversations in the future. We will explain the underlying theory and show how this can help in your understanding of the approach and in where and how to use it effectively. We'll make links to assessment tools you can also use to show clients their real interpersonal styles as seen by others. And finally, we will show you how you can access free support materials to help you use Aim to Agree with clients effectively, allowing this to become a reliable part of your coaching toolkit. Aim to Agree is structured around the dimensions of the Psychologica Model, a simple approach for understanding human perception and behaviour based on thinking, which includes all our ideas, beliefs and rational analyses, feeling, which includes our emotional awareness and people focus, or emotional intelligence, and doing, our focus on actions and outcomes in terms of getting things done. The initial focus is often on what someone is doing, in terms of the need for some behaviour change, or on a particular outcome, and in agreeing on how to do something better or differently. There are various routes to establishing agreement, which are more or less successful depending on the context and the interpersonal and thinking styles of those involved, and their preferences for these. For example, some may favour following a rational argument through to its logical outcome, which may fail to take others' feelings into consideration. Others may take a more impulsive approach based on spontaneous emotional responses, which may at times be somewhat subjective or irrational. More hands-on individuals may be inclined to just act, without consulting others or thinking through the consequences at all. The Aim to Agree approach draws on all of these factors in reaching an agreement which is co-created by all participants as far as possible, allowing for all styles and preferences. Regardless of personal preferences, we all have varying capacities in all these areas, and these are integrated in our daily life and functioning. For example, our ideas and strategies are translated into outcomes through processes of planning and the conscious organisation of tasks. Planning is crucial for successful negotiation or managing difficult conversations and requires protected time for clear thinking, to clarify aims, create strategies and consider possible alternative contingencies. Our emotions influence our thoughts and vice versa, both being involved in communication of feelings and information. This can clearly make or break a negotiation. Ideally, all participants should be attentive, listening with respect and without interruption until it's their turn to interact. However, where emotions are running high or there's an imbalance of power, this is often not the case. Having a structure here can help and provide a framework to ensure all parties do participate and are able to express their aims and voice their viewpoints in terms of concerns, feelings, needs and wishes. Some coaching support can be very helpful to enable this. Most of us can adapt our emotions or our behaviours to some degree to help manage expectations of others or deal with change or stress. Adaptation is central to achieving a collaborative or acceptable outcome. At the tangible level, this involves the give and take of making trades, but it can also relate to managing emotions with resilience, making compromises to keep the other party on side, or responding to disproportionate power in the interaction by being more or less assertive. A collaborative outcome is contingent on getting the balance right between assertive and adaptive stances. So, these are generally termed our three survival functions, or capabilities, and underpin the 5-step aim to agree approach. The first step is to define a clear aim as the starting place, in terms of recognizing what both parties want to get out of it and what alternatives there may be. What would good look like? Having established that, the next step is to review the reality of the situation in terms of how things are right now and what needs to change or improve. The next step in the process is to review the emotional impacts, both of the problem issue, the reality, and also any proposed changes, and even the current situation in actually engaging in discussion. Emotions are often bypassed as they can be uncomfortable to talk about. Addressing these specifically ensures that they are on the agenda, with the aim of diffusing them to allow clear communication. Next step is a rational assessment, now we have put the emotions aside. This is a review of the situation as both parties see it, pros and cons of alternative approaches, possible trade-offs within the agreement, risks, contingencies, and so on. Finally, some kind of agreement is reached, which hopefully will meet the original aim through a collaborative process, or represent some kind of compromise where both parties give a little to allow a workable outcome to be achieved. Okay, let's talk about using aim to agree with a client in a coaching session. For example, in preparing them for a difficult conversation they're going to have, or need to have, which requires handling with sensitivity. The process is somewhat similar to the GROW approach, which most coaches will be aware of. Goals, reality, options, and will. But this goes deeper by placing emphasis on the underlying competencies and the dynamics involved, particularly in emotion management and social skills. The worksheets can be used to structure the coaching session, but can also be provided as takeaways for the client to use in their work or lives, or as homework to consider between sessions. Ultimately, these can be used by clients themselves on an ongoing basis, helping to build and embed an approach which becomes natural and highly effective for them, encouraging engagement rather than avoidance. So, using the worksheets. First, explain the concepts regarding the preferences of thinking, feeling, and doing, and the 3 functions, and explore these. How developed or competent is the client in these areas? Where are their strengths and weaknesses? Are they harbouring undermining false beliefs or strong emotions? How might these risk short-circuiting the process or result in cutting corners? How good are they at planning? What's their communication style? Are they highly extroverted and assertive, or quiet and withdrawn? Do they have a tendency to be over-accommodating or resistant and inflexible? All these factors will impact on their effectiveness in managing a difficult conversation successfully. Okay, let's work through the sheet. First, establishing aims. People can sometimes find it hard to identify what they really want, and a coach can be helpful here in getting down to the truth of the matter, possibly by exploring their ideal outcome, without the constraints of normal limitations of thought. Explorations of values and motivations may also be helpful here. Some digging will be required. A client may merely say, "I want X to do Y," but further exploration could reveal that X already knows that they're supposed to be doing Y, but appears to be avoiding doing it. Further probing may reveal that the real issue is that the client doesn't feel respected by X, or that they see them as being deliberately obstructive. Coaching may help to identify why this is the case, whether this is actually true, and what needs to be done about it, possibly through opening a frank channel of communication with X and identifying some areas where behavioural change may be needed, or where they may be seeing things differently. Once the aim is clarified, we move on to the realities. What's really going on? Where does each party stand on the issue? The objective here is to find the root cause and really clarify the problem in terms which both parties can appreciate. What's the evidence to support this? What are the facts? What does it need to change this? Why does it need to be changed? This is an opportunity to be as objective as possible and state concerns in a clear but non-emotive way. We'll come on to emotions as the next step in their own right. Returning to our example, this will explore what X is actually doing or saying, and the tangible impacts and outcomes of this, possibly on performance or morale. Right, moving on to emotions. These often get in the way or hijack clear communication, either by participants becoming overheated and subjective or highly defensive, which weakens arguments and undermines credibility, or through lacking confidence in asserting views at all, becoming embarrassed, or caving in at the first challenge or pushback. So, emotions are generally either engaged in subjectively or avoided altogether. Here a coach can really help in identifying fears, concerns, sources of anger, and so on, facilitating the client to vocalize these and assert their genuine position, or in anticipating emotional responses in the other party and preparing to deal with these. The aim is to be authentic in describing the impact that certain behaviors or decisions may be having, and this process can help marshal emotions and put them on the agenda. This may reveal a deeper aim for the conversation, which may need to be amended. For example, X is actually making the client really angry and wants to seek revenge. This may in fact be the hidden agenda, which needs to be unpacked to help identify a more positive aim for the conversation. Companion support materials are available to help further in terms of managing emotions within interactions and increasing confidence interpersonally, and we'll talk about those in a moment. So moving on to assessment. Assessments are usually the first step in problem-solving conversations, but here we've already generated and considered a lot of important information, which may normally have been overlooked, and we have hopefully already enabled our client to start engaging with more genuine honesty and openness. Some give and take will be needed at this step in the form of a negotiation, and this requires identifying trades, what either party has that the other may want or could be willing to give away or may drop altogether as a compromise. Within the conversation, this should lead to identification of a single way forward that is acceptable to both parties. Anticipated outcomes should be considered in the planning stages, but also contingencies for and consequences of other possible responses, or hidden agendas or emotional reactions, including the client's own walk-away cut-off point. A coach can really help unpick these issues by brainstorming possibilities and establishing a clear rationale with the client, identifying and defusing any self-limiting or undermining false beliefs regarding what really is or is not possible. Again, more helpful information on cognitive distortions, for example, can be found in our resources section. A clear rationale will help them to keep sight of the key issues even when under pressure within the conversation or negotiation. And finally, agreements. Here we identify the common ground or agree what compromises might be needed to achieve this, who will give away or take on what. The outcome should be an agreement on the best course of action and how to ensure it's delivered, specifying clear action steps for implementation in terms of who needs to do what, and also how and when you will evaluate if the outcome is actually successful, and what to do if it isn't. In effect, this forms a contract for review in a future conversation, and there should be clear and accepted consequences if this contract is broken. If the outcome is not successfully achieved, then they'll need to go back to step 1, with renewed learning and insight into the realities of the situation. Alternatively, if the contract is broken, a different kind of conversation may be required to address consequences, such as performance management or similar. So, the aim is to enter just the key bullet points for each step into the worksheet. Space is limited to avoid going into too much detail, which may distract from the main points. Aim to agree can also be used for team or group development, as an exercise in facilitated workshops. Here the principles are explained to the group, and individuals can then work in co-coaching pairs to plan anticipated challenging conversations or review and reconsider previous unsuccessful exchanges. These can then be enacted in role-play sessions and reviewed as a group if required. Finally, a look at some related products. Please check the product pages on our website. There are a number of online assessment tools within the Psychologica product range, as well as support materials for coaches. Assessment survey outputs show clients' current effectiveness on various competencies, including interpersonal behaviours. These include self-assessments, such as the skills spectrum, and 360 surveys and reports. Sample reports can be downloaded for review. Material for coaches and development professionals are available to support each of the main development zones of the model, in terms of thinking style, behavioural change, and emotional management. These include workpads for each zone, along with laminated instructions, which can all be incorporated into the coach's companion binder if required. This integrates together information on using all of the Psychologica products. Alternatively, registered practitioners can download these for free. Just log into the platform as normal, click on the links icon, and you can access a library of support videos, as well as download PDFs for each of the products we've talked about. If you're not registered with us already, get in touch to become a practitioner, access the project management system, and benefit from large discounts on product costs. There's no license fee to pay or any other hidden charges. With Psychologica, what you see is what you get.